Hey everybody, just like you, every summer I wrestle with finding the balance, right? We want our kids to enjoy summer vacation, but the game calls to us. How long should we take off before we get them back in the game? And that's one of the reasons we really love what NHL Sense Arena is doing this offseason. They've rolled out new monthly training packs to give players a structured plan to follow all summer, so you're not wondering what they should be working on. They've also added creator packs featuring drills from NHL goaltenders Devin Cooley, Joey Decord, along with Brody True's Summer Skills Pack. It's a fun way for players and goalies to work on their hockey IQ, decision making, stick handling, reactions, and game situations right from their home in just 10 or 15 minutes. Perfect to keep them away from the ice, but get that hockey in. So if you've been thinking about trying Sense Arena, now is the time. Their off-season prices is always the lowest of the year, and Our Kids Play Hockey listeners can save an additional $25 with the promo code OKPH. So head over to hockey.sensearena.com, use that promo code OKPH, and keep your players sharp all summer long. Check out that website, then come on back and get yourselves sharp with this episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. This episode is powered by NHL Sense Arena. Hello, hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome back to another edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, or you could call this one, We're Coaches That Coach Hockey. It's Mike Bonelli and Lee Elias with you today. And today is going to be a little bit of a coaches episode. Mike and I have been talking, and parents, we've got to have a discussion with you. Don't worry, this is not going to be a negative or a griping episode. What we're talking about today is controlling the kids. And Mike and I have both experienced as coaches, a parent or a fan or someone coming up to us and yelling, hey, control your kids. Well, the truth is, while we coach these kids, they're not our kids, they're your kids. All right, so we want to have a little talk about the village that it is of youth sports, of youth hockey, where the coach plays a role in that, where the parents play a role, where the team plays a role to controlling, reprimanding, supporting, all the words you can fill in there, the kids. So I'm going to throw it over to Mike because, Mike, again, another brilliant topic from you. Why don't you talk about the story or something that happened to you that gives a really concrete example of why we're talking about this today? And again, parents, coaches, everybody listening, don't worry. This is going to be a good episode, like a fun episode. We're just we're setting the table. We got to get those views, right? We got to set it up the right way. Go ahead.
Right, but you're also it's also coaches don't you can't take the unearned valor, right? You can't be like, oh my God, that kid is an unbelievable kid. You're like, yeah, he is. He's my.
I developed him.
I've been coaching him for 3 months. I've been coaching him 3 months. I think So I think it comes from the side, but I think when you coach sports, you become like the hub of that community,
right? For
lack of a better term. I mean, and sometimes it's I don't know. I've seen a lot of teams where maybe that kind of leans into like the manager or other support people that help you on the team, but ultimately it becomes like everybody looks as the coach of the team, whether you're coaching a 9U team or a college team, right? You walk in like, oh, there's the coach. That's the leader of the group. So as the group goes, the coach gets blame or credit.
Right.
Mostly blame. Not a lot of credit. It's like the the goalie who wins the game 1-0. The guy who scored the one goal gets the credit, right? Not the goalie so much. So it's and this comes up over and over and over again. And I think for me, like, I really try to caution parents that are on my teams that although I love being a support person and I want to be that sounding board, and but at the same time, I expect you guys to parent your children. And I'll parent my children.
Yeah, look, I always say it takes a village. At least that's how I approach my season. I think it's about clearly representing also, like, what are the roles? What is the role of the coach? Something I say at the start of each season, especially in the younger group, I'll explain how I do this with older groups too. But if it's, we'll just say 12U and down, all right, I have no problem telling the families I am not a babysitter. All right, I am a hockey coach. And my job, much like your teacher at school, is to teach these kids. And I expect them to have their good behavior and to have some standards set. And we, and I use that word purposefully, all play a role in that. Like, again, I'll give you another great example. We're recording this in late July. So a lot of season prep is starting now. You might be about to enter your summer skates. You might be in the season when you're listening to this. The point is this. I set standards very early, and I communicate them in a way, Mike, that you're talking about. I will send the parents a message of, I expect your children fully dressed 10 minutes before a practice. All right. So we can go over drills. And then I'll kind of, I don't want to say hints, but I'll kind of give the cue of, please use this and say that I'm asking for this to teach them responsibility. Use it. Use it. Hey, coach wants you there, and he wants you to be dressed 10. I'm trying to give you a tool to keep them accountable. Now, the truth is, and look, I'm guilty of this once or twice as well, is sometimes parents just show up late too. Like, they're the ones that are causing everybody to be late. There's a lot of different reasons for that. Sometimes it's traffic. Sometimes it could be getting out of work late. There's a lot of legit reasons. And I've said, just text me. Just text me if you're going to be late, or have your kid text me on your phone. Coach, it's XYZ. We're going to be late. We hit traffic. Even if you're lying, do it. All right. Just because it sets a standard, it sets responsibility. And it's not so much, Mike, that we're taking it off of ourselves. To me, this is what we're providing. We are giving you a calendar, standards, be prepared, be ready to compete. And I'm saying is, I'm trying to give the parents and the guardians tools to bring those standards to the rink. All right.
Right. You're getting the support, like you're setting it out there so that the parent can support you, but you can support them. Like you're giving the window of opportunity for the whatever, depending on the age you're coaching. Now the kid can be like, Mom, I have to be there.
Right.
Like at 7:50. Like I've got to be dressed and ready. So I've got, we've got to now let's like, we've talked about this before, right? Now start doing the math. Right. Like, oh, how long does it take you to get dressed? How long does it take you to get into the rink? Is there parking? Like, and go backwards.
That's their responsibility. To your point, like this is what we're talking about. Like, it's not my responsibility as a coach to teach your kid those things. To me, that's the family's responsibility. That doesn't mean you can't ask. Like, I'm always willing to help, right? But if a kid is consistently late, I'm not going to point the finger at myself. And
I think for me, it's more of the like, it's for me, it's the kid, where you're at the rink and the kid's running through the hallway and somebody shoots a puck into the, vending machine or something. And you get yelled at, like you're the coach, what's wrong with your kids? And that's where I'm like, well, first of all, that is their mom right there. That's the mom. But ultimately I think it's just a matter of, if you lay out like you're doing, like, and you're laying out these standards of, how do you behave in the rink and in the locker room and in the pro shop and around restaurants and on road trips, like then you can help get support from the person really who's hopefully, reinforcing those lessons every day at home too. Like you rarely, well, I shouldn't say rarely. I've been coaching teams of kids that when they're with me, and then I see them go with like their soccer coach in a different setting. They're a completely different kid. Because I set the standard and I enforce my standard, and it's all of a sudden like the animals are loose in the barn over here on this side because that coach didn't have any standards.
Right.
And so so at the end of the day, like, yes, the kids are being controlled, but I'm not in my small way, I'm hoping to send a lesson to the kid. But ultimately, when you look at that player, that person, that's the whole of their upbringing. Like that's the whole of the parent. So if they're misbehaving here and angels over here, then you can't blame the individual coach. I don't think.
Yeah. Well, look, I'll also say the flip side of this. Like I keep saying, it takes a village, right? It is on the coach to provide some of these guidelines, like enforcing standards and creating standards. That's the village part. If you have a coach that has no standards, that's, to me, that's a shame, right? That's part of coaching, is to help teach those barriers of be here on time, be prepared, compete at your best, learn something today, get a little better every day. Like that's coaching, trying to help a kid or an adult find the best versions of themselves. To me, that's the true definition of coaching, right? In and outside of sport. So that's just the first one, is that parents, if you have a coach that's giving you the tools you need to build a better person at home, take them. Because I'll be honest with you, you're not going to always get that help, right? There's some people, there's agents that work against that. right? But Mike, to your
and
point,
if you have 15 other families and 15 other kids in the room, and they're supporting each other in the same way, and the rules and the expectations are being reinforced around the table, it's just much easier then to teach those things.
Well, and just kind of closing the point I made to begin with, that's why I established this right at the start of the season. And I don't mean like the start of the regular season. I mean the first 10 touch points I have with the team, I'm setting the standards. So this goes back all the way to like our pre-eval skates, like be on time, be prepared. Now, I'm not strict in the sense of being mean to the younger kids, but it's standards. And I tell the parents, I expect these to be enforced. And I'm a little harder at the start of the season on them because by the end of the season, they have them down, right? And you're always going to have slip ups here and there. That's okay. Like I also have a little more, room for improvement throughout the season now. But that's one of the things I do when I start with. Now, when it comes to the older players where maybe parents are less involved, I expect the standard from the start. And if you don't match the standard, then I will have to take disciplinary action. But at that point, I'm not hearing from people, control your kids, because I have the ability to remove a kid if they are really beyond the point of repair. Okay. Does not mean I won't try my best to get them back. All right. But moving on again, we're talking about just how, we get blamed for a lot of things. That's like the pregame, being on time, parent blaming the coach environment. What about the games, the practices? You brought up a good one with the vending machine. I mean, look, we are not the caretaker for 20 kids, right? And kids are kids. At some point, a kid is going to make a horrible mistake on the ice and let their emotions out, maybe throw a punch, maybe throw a stick, do something stupid. And the ref comes up to us and goes, hey, control your kids. And it's like, I'm trying, man.
During COVID, we picked a lot of teams sight unseen. And my particular team was kind of put together by kids that, like, some kids I didn't even know, right? And we get to the first game, and I had a player lost his mind, flipping the bird to the other team. He's riding his stick in a not so dignified way, and he gets kicked out. And the ref comes over to me. He's like, "What is wrong with your team? Your kids are out of control." I go, "Not for nothing. I literally just met this kid, literally an hour and a half ago. That was the first time I've seen the player." So I said, "It's not my player." Right. And but then what you do as a coach after that too, is really, are you just letting it go? Is there discipline? Is there a discussion amongst the group? Are you just blame, like, because most of the time in those kind of situations, Lee, like you're talking about, like if it gets to the point where the ref is coming over to you and giving you the once over because your kids aren't disciplined, I would say more times than not, the parents are horrified too. Right. Like the parent of that player, especially like you talked about, like, and again, anybody listening to this that has kids under puberty, everything changes, right? Yeah. Their emotions change, their attitudes change, their ability to, cognitively make the right decisions and not be impulsive. All these kind of things change. So, like, a lot of times it's you and the parent looking, going, I don't even know where this child came from. Like, I've known this kid for a long time. Like, where did that go? How'd that happen?
Yeah, I'll say this too. When it comes to refs, I always love to try and give actionable items. My favorite refs, I was going to say at youth hockey, Mike, but this is kind of honestly at every level. I really love a ref that makes a call, especially not just like an in-game call, like an offsides or, I think there's educational purposes with that sometimes. But like when something crazy happens, I like a ref that actually talks to a kid, talks to a player and said, look, this is why I called that. Now, if a kid is irate and crazy, the ref's got to do what the ref's got to do. Don't get me wrong. But I'm talking about, the kid who makes a mistake on the ice and the ref says, listen, you can't do that. It's 10 minutes, whatever. Here's why. Talk in the box. And then comes over to me and explains, this is what I explained to the kid. It takes a village. I'd rather the ref come to me as a coach, say, listen, I'm going to give him a misconduct. Here's why. Now, you're going to have a lot of different responses from a lot of different coaches. I am not a coach that likes to yell at refs or argue with refs. I will always ask for an explanation. If I ever feel like my kids are in danger in any way, I will get pretty angry at a ref if I feel like that's the reason that it's happening. It's very rare, though, to be fair. Okay, I have a lot of respect for our refs. As Kerry Fraser said, you can't play the game without them, and you can't play them and the other team and win the game. So
guys like Kerry, they proved the point too, that the best officials are the best communicators.
Correct.
Like they're proactive communicators. They're not waiting for something to happen. They're managing it. And I think a good coach does that too. You know when your kids are getting out of control.
Right.
You know when it's getting to a point where you probably have to like take a kid and discipline them. But I think this is where in your little slice of the world with the kid for that moment, they are your kid. Like that's when you can control them, and that's when you could be blamed or not if a kid goes out there and hurts somebody and you knew that they were kind of getting over the edge. Like that's a little different to me. Like where somebody goes, Coach, you got to control your kids. You knew this was happening. You could see it brewing. Like you're the adult. Like you should be somebody that can handle this. I'm just, my thing is more of the stuff that's, the kids in the locker room and he's watching a video. Yeah, and all the other kids are watching, and they find out, oh my God, like this person was watching this video and he's inappropriate with the kids, and that's not my kid.
Well, it's all, we can't be everywhere at once, and like here's one for you. Like, should the coach be in the locker room before the game? I'd actually lean towards no. Like again, at the younger ages now, we have locker room monitors. Okay, that's something USA Hockey's put into place. I hate those rules, with that. By the way, I mean, I know why they're there. But I hate the fact that kids can't have a locker room to themselves. Well, but that's the result of what you're saying, though, right? Yeah. Is that this got out of control to the point that whether it's bullying or videos, someone has to be there to monitor it. But, Mike, your point was also the point I was going to make. Like, if I'm in the locker room, the kids can't be the kids that they are when I'm not around. And that's part of the growth is like we talk about character. Like, the definition of character is what you do when no one's looking, right? Like, they need that opportunity to build themselves, right? Again, like I always think about from a character standpoint with this, the kid who cleans up the locker room after the game or the kids that clean it up and don't say anything about it. Like that's character. I try and have my players learn that, right? Clean it up, leave it better than you found it. And if I walk in there, it's not clean. It's like, okay, noted. I'm going to have to work on that. But to your point, I can't do it for every single kid all the time. Here's another good example, Mike. You brought this up in the pre-show. Restaurants, hotels, tournaments, social media. Guys, I don't know how to say this. Like, that's not our direct responsibility as their coach to oversee those things. I will say it takes a village. I will say that if I'm at a restaurant, a tournament, or I see a kid on social media doing something wildly inappropriate, depending on the situation, I will most likely say something. Right? If I'm at a restaurant, a kid's throwing plates around, I'm not just going to sit there and watch him and go, hey, I'm off the clock. All right? But that's your kid. Right? That's your kid doing that. Like, parents, you got to step in there.
I think it's why, like, especially like back in the day, like at the collegiate level and prep school level and high school level, like you never wanted your kids going out wearing their gear. Like you never wanted the kids wearing their, varsity jacket or whatever it was, right? Because you're like, okay, if the kid makes a mistake, it's coming back on me, not the individual player. Like it's the reflection of the program. And I think that's to my, my point is, that's a lot of work. Like if you as a coach can work with your players and have them understand their responsibility to the program and to the logo and to their teammates, then you've made great strides, right? Because if that player, like you're saying, when they're at a restaurant and they're eating with their toes, that's not you. You didn't like if somebody's like, oh my God, who is this kid? It's a Neanderthal. I'm like, yeah, but I didn't teach this person manners. I didn't teach this person how to sit at a table. I don't know what's going on at home, but again, there's standards and I like your idea. I like your point earlier. Like if you establish these things, like these are the kind of standards that we want. When we go to a restaurant, this is how we're going to behave. Then when the player steps out of line, there's like, okay, listen, you've got to go sit with your parents. You're not part of this community right here because you can't behave within the standards that we have.
Well, and look, I'll take another standard example of when, coaching high school or college, like the GPA minimum standard, right? Like I've always raised that. Like when I said it once before in an episode, when I was coaching college, the minimum GPA was like a 2.5, something low. And I raised it. I said, on this team, we're going to have like a 2.8 or a 3.0. I can't remember exactly what I made it, but I raised it. Now, again, I'm, and this is my opinion, I'm providing a standard. Cannot go to class with these kids and sit there and make sure they're doing their work. The responsibility is on them. And I think that takes this discussion to an even bigger place, Mike, is that, like, what is the role of the coach? Well, we provide standards. We provide guidance. again, not every coach does this. I will be the first to admit that. If you find a coach that does this, in my opinion, it's a gift. I'll reverse it as a parent. When a coach tells my kids of a team that I'm not coaching standards, I'm like, thank you, because now I can say to my kid, nope, coach is expecting this. Coach is expecting that. Are you kidding? As a parent, I love when the onus isn't on me. Then they're not going to blame me for every little thing. I mean, that's part of parenting. There's no perfect parents. Man, what a gift you're giving me to tell my kid, no, prepare your bag the night before. Prepare your lunch the night before. Coach wants you to be there on time. You don't want to upset the coach. You want to make a good example. You want your teammates to see that. That's as a parent, to me personally, that's a gift. As a coach, I am providing standards. With that said, coaches listening to this show, if you are not providing these standards, you need to start. And I'll tell you right now, no matter when you're listening to this, I will always say, obviously, preseason, early season is the absolute most impactful time to do it. It's very hard to do it mid-season, but if you're not doing it, start doing it now. Start small. All right. You can't just come in halfway through the season, by the way, and here's 15 standards. Just start small. All right. Here's the other thing, Mike. We got to say this a little bit. Have you noticed that, and we got to define what winning is here, but I find the teams that have strong standards and follow those standards have better seasons. And I don't necessarily always mean in the win-loss column. Okay. I think that is part of winning teams. They typically have high standards, but I'm just talking about from enjoying hockey and learning. By the way, for everybody listening, quick disclaimer, you can have a mediocre season in the standings and enjoy the entire season. That is a very possible thing if you know what you're looking for. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, and I think good coaches are going to, build their standard, and then they attract the players that will abide and want to be in that standard. And like you're saying, like I seek out those coaches that say, that lay it on the like don't be gray. Like don't say, oh, just show up when you want to show up. Like God, I want to know.
Don't do that.
Like I like the coach that says you have to be here and I'm going to follow through. Like so even when I'm late, like now it puts the onus on me as the parent.
Sure.
I'm like, listen, Coach Lee wants you there. I'm going to schedule my day to get you there.
Right.
But when I show up from work, you better be ready to go because that's the standard he's set. Yeah. I'm supporting him on that. I think what happens is like when it's more of the coaches when you're in too much gray, then there is a lot of that. Well, who's controlling these kids?
Right.
Well, none of us are.
Yeah, and that's when you get blamed as a coach. By the way, right? That's when people.
Well, because again, like I said in the beginning, like it comes down to automatically the minute you take that role, you're the hub.
Yeah,
you are. That's just the way it is.
It's the role. And the funny thing, Mike, is that for those of you listening, you notice we're not talking anything with hockey here. Like these are good rules for coaching of any sport or any situation. Like this has nothing to do with our forecheck. All right. I will say as a coach, when you establish the standards, it's easier to practice the things that you want to practice. But Mike, you're making a great point here.
Standard, you're also inviting
right
a parent to support you. Like it's so much easier to get the support of 15 parents.
It is. Here's something else I'll say too. And these are like things that we have to note. Like everyone parents differently. There's no perfect parents. We must have said that 1,000 times, including us. Like, again, we have the voice of the show. We appreciate you trusting us. But the truth is everyone does this a little differently. And again, we're not going to judge anybody in this, but you've got soft parents, hard parents, strict parents. You got everything across the board. Parents who don't believe in any kind of guidance. I mean, you got a lot of different types of parenting out there. And I think that what's important is that we establish as the coach, particularly the head coach, kind of what's the standard for this group and in this environment. And look, here's the deal. This is where we do have a little bit of authority. That's the standard. That's it. I'm not asking you to fully agree with it. I'm asking you to adhere to it. And if you really don't agree with it, if it really, whatever, impacts the way you're trying to do things, then have a conversation with me. I'm happy to do that. All right. I'm never trying to compromise someone's ability to parent. I don't think that I do, to be perfectly fair. All right. I'm just providing a lot of life lessons. But I think that that's really important, is that you've got to establish it for the whole team, or else you're going to have 20 different conflicting styles of parenting pointing fingers, and they're all going to point at you as the coach if you're not leading the bus or driving the bus, all right, leading the ship. So something to think about there. Another thing, Mike, just a hack, again, to bring up for coaches out there, just because we're talking about showing up, and I want to give an example. Like, so for my games, I always want players there. This is youth players, 1 hour before the game. There's really no questions about that. I have a set thing that I like to do. I think that, yes, I know when the game is at 6:30, that's hard. That's kind of the point, all right, is you're teaching the kids to go through that. When we get to the older ages, I allow the captains to have some responsibility with that. Typically, at the highest level, 2 hours is the minimum you want to be there before the game, but I allow the captains to communicate that to the team and enable them so it's a shared standard. But a trick, right? In youth hockey, a lot of times you're going to have practices that are at times that if there's traffic, you're getting out of work late as parents. There's a lot of things that can keep you from getting there. So instead of saying, hey, the practice is at 6:45, I want you there at 5:45, the coaching staff and I talked, and I said this earlier, it's like, you know what? Be there with enough time, whatever that is, to be dressed 10 minutes before practice, right? Now I'm giving the flexibility to the parents. I'm giving some flexibility to their day, right? I do not think that's hard to ask for, right? I don't think it's unfair to be ready 10 minutes before, all right? People will still show up late, right? But look, if you got a kid that can get dressed in 5 minutes, great. You got a kid that can't get dressed in 5 minutes, takes them 30 minutes, great. I'm giving you the leeway to make this happen, right? So I don't know if you have any hacks like that too. We could talk about on the bench. I've got plenty of those too. But again, this is kind of the two-way conversation. We're saying don't blame us, but at the same time, we're also saying there's things we can do to help the situation.
Well, no, exactly. Like I'll lay out, with my teams, I'll lay out like this is what I would expect you to be able to do with this age group. And if you choose not to come and do like a warm up with the team, that's fine. You don't need to, as long as you're prepared. But when you're not prepared and you show up late and you're the last kid on the ice and you don't know what's happening and your teammates don't like you and there's like I used to play with guys that would never work out ever, and they'd kick my ass and running every year. Like they'd show up for training camp. I'm like, this guy's smoking like a pack a day, and he's still beating me. Right. You know, like so there's definitely like you have to be you. You know, whatever your ability is to be ready to play. Like be a gamer. Be ready to play if you're performing. But I think the other side of it is when you set these standards for teams, and I'm a parent like looking at this going, I want my son or daughter there early. I want them interacting with the players.
Right.
I want them having a social, ability, and I want them to be able to get there early enough where they might be able to have a conversation with the coach for 5 minutes. It's off the ice. It's in the rink. It's a lot more informal. I think it's just like, and I think at the end of the day, it's to your point. Like it doesn't. Once you start putting these hard and fast rules in, then you better enforce them because it just. Like if you say you must be in the locker room dressed and ready to go a half hour before every practice, and kids are on now, like, and me, like as a parent, I'm like, that's like written in stone. My son, you are going to be there. Like, Dad, nobody else is there. I don't give a crap if nobody. I don't care if nobody shows up for 5 minutes. This is the rule that was standardized or asked. You get there, and I think the kids that do that. The leaders that get there early, and maybe it's one, then maybe it's three, and then maybe it's six, and then maybe it's the whole team. And the one outlier that doesn't, usually that's the kid that's probably not going to be in that team the next year, or they're not going to be really in that group, and it right away. So I think these things, when you talk about I'm not your parent, the coach is trying to make it so the parent's job is easier,
right?
But it's like that. Like I get upset even when, my son comes home from school and says, oh, the teacher, we didn't do that in class. We just did the homework in the class. I'm like, well, that's not, why are you doing that? What the hell are we paying for? Like right. You're going to school. Like, why are you in school? So it's just when you let the kids fall to the lowest denominator of expectations, it's a ripple effect. And the teams that do that, who those teams are.
Yeah, look, I think if you're a parent and the coach is providing no standards and no guidance, that's when you can start to, and there's two parts to this, right? That's when you can start to look at the coach and say, okay, this is not a great situation. But I would never look at a coach in that situation and say, why are you not, parenting my kid, right? It sounds dumb saying it, right? So I think that parents, if you have a coach that's not bringing these standards to the table, this is your opportunity to bring the standards. As Mike just said, like, I don't care what they're saying. We're going to be there on time.
Yeah. And I think this is going back to the, I'm not your parent kind of conversation. Comes back, like it happens to me a lot. And maybe because I am very outgoing as far as saying, here's what I want to do for you. And here's how I want to help and support you. Like I could give millions of examples. Like when I was coaching high school, like a parent would call me up, be like, so-and-so's parents are out of town and they're having a party. I'm like, well, I don't care. It's not my kid. It's
what do you want
my
me to
house.
do?
Let them destroy
Call the cops? Yeah.
What do I care? Like, what do you want me to do? And then, and what happened was now they laid that on me. Now I'm like, now I have to do something.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, I mean, literally would have these conversations with parents. Like, why don't you call the parent? Oh, I can't do that. I go, why? You know them better than me. You're in the same like country club as them. Like, why aren't you calling them? Why are you calling me to rat the kid out? And I think that's where you got to be careful, right? As a coach, because I like the fact that a parent would trust the fact that I could be discreet about something like this, but also the reason it got brought up in my head is because of what you said about like, oh, great, that coach is asking for that. It's the same thing. Like that parent's like, this is great. This coach is going to stop the party that I don't have to tell my kid he can't go to. Like it's a roundabout way. The parent's like, well, I'm not going to tell my kid he can't go to the party because everybody else is letting him go to the party. So I'm just going to rat the party out.
I'll give you a really tough example that happened to me once, right? That, I'll display this in a story form, audience, so you can make a decision on what should have or not been done, right? So it was a, we'll say high-level hockey game, all right? So these are 18 years and up, all right? So the player in question is over 18. Follow me here because this is a unique example. We lost a playoff game in overtime, so emotions are very high. It was tough situation. Hurt a lot to lose that game, all right? I, after the game, am kind of in the way the parking lot's kind of attached to the outside of the rink, and I'm outside just kind of decompressing, and I hear screaming, like loud screaming. And within seconds, the player and their parents are walking to the parking lot, and the parent is really screaming at their kid in a super inappropriate way. I'll just say it like that. Okay. Now, what am I to do in this situation? I'm watching it happen. All right.
Right.
And I'll tell you what I did. I did almost nothing because what am I to do in this situation? I actually had someone walk up to me, to your point, Mike, and say, aren't you going to do something? And I said, what would you like me to do? All right. This is a parent with their adult kid.
Right.
All right. That are super heated, by the way. Like this is not something I want to intervene in. Now, I will say this. If anything physically had happened or like violently had happened, there's no doubt I would have stepped in immediately. Like I'm not going to stand for that with any of my players. And I don't care who's doing it. All right. Like that's a line for me. But this is not a situation that I can step into. I mean, play it out in your head. What am I going to do? Tell the parent to stop yelling at their kid? What do you think that parent's going to tell me in that moment? Like,
and
play it out in your head.
Now you're in the argument.
Right. Now I'm being yelled at. Right. Now you could say, well, I'm protecting this person. This person's an adult. All right. So what I did was I kind of watched it. Player actually came up to me and shook my hand. It was kind of a heartbreaking moment. And I said to that player, look, I will call you tomorrow. Okay. Just do what your parent is saying. Get in the car. We'll talk tomorrow. What am I to do in that situation? You got to remember too, parents and everybody, like we have rules we have to follow via Safe Sport, USA Hockey. Like we have to be very careful in the situations. I'm going to say this again. If there's ever a violent situation, someone's being hurt, I mean, I'm going to do what I got to do to protect my player. All right. I will say that. All right. To be fair, that has never happened. I haven't seen it happen yet. I hope it never happens. But man, what an impossible. Now, you at home might have a different. I would have jumped in that immediately. I would never let somebody do that. This is how hard it is. All right. And again, it was a heartbreaking situation. I was not in a position to do anything.
Right.
Right. So it's a paradox in a lot of different ways. And again, I can't go into more detail than I'm going into. I'm going to say one more time that the way this parent was talking to their child was wildly inappropriate, but it was not a scenario that if I stepped in, I think it would have helped. That's the other problem too. So again, I'm just giving a scenario. This stuff happens to us. And again, the other parent coming up to me, aren't you going to do something? And Mike, to your point, why don't you do something? Right?
Yeah.
Like,
why asking me? Because I'm the coach. I'm supposed to be the smartest person in the room all of a sudden. Yeah. I think that's
very hard situation. I just want to say that one. It was a very hard situation. Okay.
I just had literally just a very similar parent calls me up and like Mike, I want to know if I could bring this up to you. Okay. Oh boy, what's going on? Right. Oh, this person, my son, is looking at this person's social media account and seeing that they're doing, like, they're saying and acting in very harmful ways.
Right.
And again, my first inclination is, well, why don't you just call that parent? But most parents are like, I'm not calling the parent. Like me, I would call the parent. and it's a juggling act, because now, okay, so I think almost like as a coach and a manager sometimes, right, of these sporting teams, you almost get a little bit more, it's not even power. It's like your perspective of your insight into the work. Because like, let's face it, like, coaches know, just when you take over a team, you know what families can't afford things financially. What kids have other difficulties outside of sport or learning disability. Most of the time you find out all these intimate details about families more than the other families. Like, you don't all sit around the room saying, hey, why don't we talk about your deficiencies? Like,
how about when parents start talking about other parents to you?
Well, and they do all the time. Like, oh, so-and-so has was in rehab for. I go, no, I don't care.
Didn't need
like,
to know
why
that.
Are you telling me these things? Yeah. But the parent, it always comes up, right? We've talked about this on episodes about, don't always jump to go to the glitziest tournament in the world at Christmas, because maybe half your team can't afford it. Like, most of the time as the coach, like, so when I say, like, I'm not your kid's parent, I also say it in a way where if you're opening the door for me to help you, I'm more than happy to help, but it's not my initial, like, that's not my initial,
I'll tell you what.
like reflex. Like, I don't want to.
I love these episodes, Mike. I love these episodes because sometimes I think that we arrive to a thought that maybe this discombobulates kind of what we're trying to say. And I wrote down a couple things here. One is that I was thinking about, like, when the kids on the ice or on the bench or at practice, right, there is an authority that we have over them as their coach, because that's our space, right? The ice is our space. The bench is our space. Do not want parents anywhere near there, ever, right? Like, ever. I want the parents near the bench ever. All right. And again, while we're talking about the behavior of kids on the ice, and the parents do have a responsibility away from the rink to teach their kids these behaviors and these standards, while they're on the ice, while they're on the bench, and these are the words I'm writing here, we manage them and we mentor them. We are not their parents. We are not their guardian. We manage and mentor. And then I wrote this word down too. I think this describes coaching. And this is how, honestly, everyone, parents, everyone, kids should be looking at a coach. A coach is a guide. That's all they are. A coach is a guide. I can invite you on the journey. You can partake in the journey with these standards, right? But I can't make you follow. And it is not my responsibility to make you follow, because I've got all the other kids, all the other players that need to follow me on this path. And it takes a village of parents supporting and helping their kids and enabling them to follow with these standards on this path together, right? You can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I think we've all heard that before, right? Right? So we are guides for your children. We create standards for them. We can mentor them. We can manage them. But it is not our job to raise them, right? And when you get to the older ages, it is not our job to what's the word, manage your day. Like, you have to make the decisions. Look, when we have Haley on this podcast, when we have any professional athlete on this podcast, the standards are so clear across the board with rest and recovery and fueling up and practicing and studying. They have the highest standards. I don't think we've had an athlete on here once that was like, yeah, I winged it the whole way, became Stanley Cup champion, Walter Cup champion. I don't think that's happened, right? We've had a few athletes that have said, I didn't do that and I didn't go as far as I wanted to go, right? I'm just saying that the coach plays a major role in these kids' lives. Well, I believe coaches can change lives. I really do.
Well, but I think that's where, like, that's not really our audience all the time, right? We're not talking to the parent that's let their kid go to a coach.
Right. Well, they're not
so it's like when you're getting driven to the rink, you are part of the team. You know what I mean? But when you're on your own, and that's where great college coaches come in, and that's where great pro coaches come in, right? You become, like, you talk to any college player that was successful or is successful and had a great relationship in college, they had a great mentor coach. Like
Correct.
they had a coach that was a parent. Like there's a reason why coaches used to, coaches go into your living room and say, give me your child. Like I will take them and I will be their parent. Like those are exact words you say to a parent. Like I will be their parent. Like you're going to look at me, and the standard you have in this house right now, that's the standard I'm going to keep.
Sure.
And that's what great recruiters. That's how they could go.
They're
into
looking
a living
for
room.
Kids with standards. That's the other.
Well, that's how they could go into a living room and get that kid, because a parent wants to say, "Oh, you're not going to let my kid run rampant." No, I'm gonna actually be the discipline that you can't handle from 7 states away. It's just like a kid that goes off to an academy or prep school or a sleepaway. Like once you release that player, you better hope that coach or mentor or guide has the best interest and is acting as a parent. But my conversation today was more of when you drive your kid to the rink and you walk into the doors of the rink together and the kid spits on the floor, don't somebody run to me and say, what's wrong with that kid? No, that's not my kid. He's sitting right there with the parent. Like, so that's where I think, to me, where that delineation really is. It's the behavior, etiquette, manners, demeanor. Like those are all things that are the parent, the actual parent responsibilities. Get them on the bench with me. I'm going to tell them where to sit. I'm going to tell them how to stand. I'm going to control how they're conversing with each other and conversing with the other team and with the refs. Like that's not going to be, I don't expect the parent to be there. I'm managing that. I'm guiding in that way. But at the same time, there is a time that when I give my children to another human being and they say that they're a mentor and a coach and a guide, I'm expecting them to have the same standards as I would have.
Yeah,
hopefully.
I think that's fair. And look, we gotta give the disclaimer. There are bad coaches out there that teach wrong things and wrong behavior, and I think you know who they are. To be fair, those are just as rare as like really great coaches, right? Most coaches are kind of in the middle. They're volunteering. God bless y'all, right? But if you've got a coach that's teaching bad behavior, teaching your kids to do things on the ice they shouldn't be doing, screaming at refs, screaming at the other team, that's not appropriate either. Okay. But this is, again, it's an opportunity to teach your kids what's wrong with that, how to do it. Don't just point the finger. I'm not trying to defend those coaches, Mike, when I say that, but it's like, if you've got a coach that's screaming at their kid on the bench, have a conversation with your kid about why that's not appropriate and just teach them. Like it's all an opportunity to teach them about real life. This is going to happen to them outside of the rink.
And most of the time you're choosing that person. Like you know what you're getting when you get it. Right. So
again, yes and no, right? Like I do agree with you. I think a lot of players know that. Like they don't like screamers. And to be fair, gang, like, and Mike and I can say this, that style of coaching, while still around, is nowhere near as rampant as it was 20, 30 years ago. Like when I was growing up, I felt like every coach did that. And I do think we've evolved as coaches a little bit to understand empathy and understand behavior and emotion. I just want to say this too. Like there's a clear difference. If you've got a coach that's doing that, educate your kid on the way you think it should be done and use it as an opportunity to teach them about how the world works. Adversely. And I think this is my point of the episode. If you've got a great coach that's bringing great standards, do not roll your eyes at your kid and go, oh, coach wants you there an hour before. We got to wake up early, coach. Don't blame the coach. That's the best thing we can do for your kid. Don't be that parent. We got to be there on time. What message is? I've heard that. I've heard
right, but don't be the coach on time. Don't be the coach that says you get there an hour before, and then literally for 50 minutes nothing is happening.
Nothing. Yeah. So that's a funny one. We had a coach one time. I think this is a funny story.
Like just to get there.
We had to be. I was not coaching this team. I was not on the staff of this team. Coach said we got to be there an hour before the game. All right. So we would all get there an hour before the game, and like you said, nothing would happen until 25, 30 minutes before the game. And I remember one of the moms went up to the coach and just said, what is the purpose of the hour? Like, what is the purpose of this? And there was no answer, just nothing. And, the answer is probably, well, that's what we were told to do. And it's like, Mike, I agree with you. I should have said that earlier. If you're showing up an hour before the game, to me, it's like there's a 10-minute kind of get settled period. Then we may either go into getting dressed or pregame. I'm not getting dressed. We might go into a pregame warm-up. We might go into a pregame talk, followed by getting dressed. There might be a post-dress talk. I like the players to be in the gear a minimum of 10 minutes before we play or practice. I think it sets a tone when you're all sitting there in your gear. Things happen. I'm not saying they don't happen, but don't roll your eyes at a coach that's providing you standards. You're giving your kid the excuse. And I've been in the room where kids say, "Oh, we have to be dressed 10 minutes before." Yeah. Yeah, you do. Right. Last thing I wanted to talk about too is just, and we last topic here, gang, is that for coaches specifically, in youth hockey, all right, you got to be careful how much you put pressure on winning and losing games solely. I am not ever going to sit here and tell coaches not to care about winning and losing. I just, I don't love it when people say, "Oh, it doesn't matter." I think that's, I think it matters more or less depending on the age, but like, who doesn't want to win? Right? Like, who doesn't want to win? I think it's very important though that you define multiple wins. Okay. Winning the game is always a nice goal. The truth is this, and when I speak to groups, I say this: everybody wants to win the game. I have never been with a group ever when I say, "Hey, what do you want to accomplish?" And they go, "We want to come in 5th place this year." Like, nobody does that. All right. So you got to find other wins. In youth hockey, that win is development. Setting a goal. I want to be great at passing today. Can we connect on 10 passes? Things like that create other wins that create much more enjoyment in the season and develop. I can also tell you this too. Unless you're a schmuck, all right, if you go into a season and win every game by 5 to 10 goals, it's not fun. All right, it's just not fun. All right, and I've seen teams do that, and the kids are not having fun. Right, the hard, to quote A League of Their Own, the hard is what makes it great. All right, like, you need that adversity, or what are we doing? If you're just trophy chasing, you're not a coach at that point. You're an egomaniac. All right, so define multiple wins. That's our responsibility, is to create those wins and losses for your group. And you should consistently be doing that throughout the season. Where did we start? Where do we want to end? And what are the things we need to do in between to get to that point before I hand you off to the next age level, to the next coach, the next person? That's the guide nature of this. Yeah. All right. But if you're getting bad messages at home, I'm sorry, that's not Mike and I's fault. We can guide your kid, we can mentor your kid, but I'm not going to be blamed because you allow your child to go crazy all the time and suddenly they're in an environment with standards and it's my fault they're not following the standard. No. It takes a village. And that's the note, at least for me, that I want to end on. It takes a village. Youth sports, especially team sports, especially individual sports, we all work together. You can make that a wonderful, wonderful environment, or you can make it a hellish environment. But it's never the coach's fault alone. Even if the coach sucks, it's not just on the coach.
Yeah. Well, that's even more of a reason if the coach is terrible.
Right.
Because and you're not parenting, then it's a vicious, like, there's a bottomless pit there of just bad behavior and bad choices. So no, I like it. I mean, I think it's, like I said, I think it's that the idea that when you look when you take the job as a coach and that you as a parent have a coach, take what you can from them, understand if they're laying things out there that can support you and your parenting, take it and embrace it. And be like, I love this because this person is helping me teach my son how to be on time and have the right dress code and understand that like me, like I'll be like, well, how come you didn't watch your video last week? Oh, the coach doesn't care. I go, well, I care. Like he said, he cares, but if he doesn't, like I said, so be consistent, follow up. But I think, and ultimately, again, if you're the Zamboni guy and a kid shoots the puck over the glass, while you're trying to take the net off the ice, don't blame me. It's not my kid. Yeah,
look, you just made me think, and this is the last thing I will say this time. Sorry, I lied before. Most of you are going to have 10 to 12 years in youth hockey, right? Most of you are going to have 10 to 12 years, and that's 30 to 40 coaches you're going to have.
Yeah.
All right? as Mike's saying, you're going to have some really good ones. You're going to have some bad ones. Most of them are going to be in the middle. That's okay. What you want to do is take the standards and the guides that you love and the ones that you hate and build up your own repertoire of what you're going to do. If you have a team where a coach set a great standard and it worked for your kid, and the next year's coach doesn't share that standard, that doesn't mean your kid should abandon the standard, right? Mike made that point, all right? If getting dressed 10 minutes before really helps your game, you should always be dressed 10 minutes before, all right? If you find something that works, do it. If you find something that doesn't work, note it, learn. It's also good life advice, all right? They're not all going to be winners, all right? That's it. You've been listening to Our Coaches Grumble About Hockey with Mike and Lee. It's a shame Christy's not here. She might have lightened the mood a little bit. No, I thought this was a great conversation, joking aside, Mike.
Well, no, but Christy, if she was here, and she will back us up, she'll say, like, I want coaches that want my kids to behave. Like, correct. I want coaches that set a standard, and that I can help my child abide by that standard.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think we all want that. And again, just to close it out, takes a village, right? Look, if you want to have a conversation with us, if you agree, disagree, if you have a thought for an episode, anything on that, email us at team@ourkidsplayhockey.com, or you can text us using the link accompanying this episode in the description, and we can text you back. Again, we only get a short amount of letters to do that, so make sure if you want to have a conversation, email us. We'd love getting all the correspondence from you. But for Mike, I'm Lee. This has been another wonderful edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. We'll see you on the next one, everybody. Take care. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.